Alrighty, time to continue my dual retrospective. What do we got next? Nope.
Never turn back. I never turn back.
Fine. Roll the fucking intro. Sonic Heroes was a pretty good game, all things considered, but one thing it left unanswered was the question of Shadow's identity. Why does he not remember his past? Is he the real Shadow from Adventure 2, or just another one of the androids Eggman created? Well, in 2005, we got a game dedicated specifically to him, Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, one thing you may notice right off the bat on this box art is that Shadow is holding a gun. Why? Well, according to Sonic Team head Takashi Iizuka, this was done because apparently a lot of young fans were asking for a game where Sonic held a gun, because this was the era in which games like Call of Duty and Battlefield were very popular with kids for some reason. And Sonic Team didn't think it would fit his character, so they decided to use Shadow instead. I'll admit, a Sonic character packing heat is a bizarre concept, but what matters is how it's executed. So, did they execute it well? Hell no. Let's go ahead and get into the story. Shadow is on a hill overlooking Central City, wondering about his past, when suddenly, aliens. Shadow decides to ignore this and walk away when a hologram of the aliens' leader, Black Doom, speaks to him, telling him to gather the Chaos Emeralds as promised. Shadow is understandably confused about this, but decides that this is his best shot at finding out the truth about his past, so he decides to head into the city. Here, he runs into Sonic, who tells him to kill all the aliens in the city.
Hey Shadow, long time no see.
He then runs into Black Doom's Eye, who tells him to kill all the soldiers in the city. Do one of these, or just ignore both and head straight for the goal ring, and the story will change depending on which action you took. This is the whole premise of this game's story. Each level has a hero mission and a dark mission, and some levels also have a neutral mission, each of which change your alignment. It is for this reason that I'm not going to be doing a full plot summary, because why should I? There are 5 possible paths: true dark, semi-dark, neutral, semi-hero, and true hero, and each path has 2 possible endings, hero or dark. This means that there are a total of 10 different endings for this game's main story. Depending on which route you take, you'll either end up with Shadow allying himself with Black Doom, allying himself with the humans, thinking he should have never been created in the first place, or thinking he's one of Eggman's Shadow androids. Heck, the Hero True Dark and Dark True Hero endings just make Shadow out to be a massive dickhead, as he spends the entire game helping either Black Doom or the humans, only to turn on them at the last minute for no fucking reason. Also, it seems like the writers may have gotten some endings mixed up. Take the 2 neutral endings, for example. In the neutral path, Shadow has convinced himself that he's an android. In one ending, he wants to prove himself to be superior to the original Shadow, and in the other, he wants to establish an android empire that will rule the world. Which of these do you think is the hero ending? If you said the android empire one, you'd be correct. That's the neutral hero ending.
What?
Each ending more or less plays out the same. Shadow has all the emeralds, says something relating to his journey, and then says,
This is who I am.
And if all that weren't bad enough, once you complete all 10 endings, you unlock the last story, the only truly canon part of this game, where Shadow ends up saving the planet and destroying the Black Arms. Why though? Seriously, what the fuck was the point of the morality system if canonically Shadow's a hero in the end anyways? The only really important info in the last story is that apparently Professor Gerald sought out Black Doom's help to create Shadow, offering him the Chaos Emeralds in exchange, but he knew the Black Arms would kill humanity, so he created the Eclipse Cannon to destroy their home, the Black Comet, when it returned 50 years later. Upon learning this, the president decides that they were wrong about Professor Gerald and they should pay homage to his legacy. Did you just forget that this is the same guy who programmed the Ark to crash into the Earth in retaliation for the military killing his granddaughter? granddaughter? I mean, yeah, sure, they were wrong for doing so, but Professor Gerald was going to wipe out all of humanity as revenge, and you think he should be honored? Jesus Christ, I know people were curious about Shadow's backstory as it wasn't fully explored in Adventure 2, but was this really the best way to handle it? Oh, and you know the main question people had about whether Shadow is the real Shadow or just a Shadow android? Well, that question is answered during the final boss when at the 8-minute mark, Eggman chimes in confirming that this is the real Shadow.
Shadow, can you hear me? This might be the last chance I have to speak to you, so what I said about having created you, it was all a lie. Everyone thought you died during that horrible incident, but I rescued you with one of my robots. You lost your memory, that's all. You really are the ultimate life form my grandfather created.
So, the answer to the main question of this whole game was given in a throwaway line of dialogue that most players probably won't even hear because of how easy the final boss is. I'm sorry, what? What the fuck was the point of this story? It's full of contradictions, retcons, and overall had no reason to exist. So with the poor excuse of a story out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay. Unlike the previous 3 games, there's only one playable character, Shadow. He controls about how you'd expect, but holy shit, he is slippery as balls! I know some people didn't like how slippery the characters were in Sonic Heroes. I didn't mind it, but a lot of people weren't a fan of it. But Jesus Christ, this is even worse! Not to mention, there seems to be a slight bit of input lag here, and just so you're all aware, I played this on an actual GameCube, so no, it's not a case of bad emulation since I was playing on real hardware. Of course, there's also guns that you can pick up and shoot, and honestly, these aren't horrible. I admit they have no reason to be in a Sonic game, but they're not the worst. Sometimes it can be satisfying to shoot enemies to kill them, since Shadow's basic homing attack and spin dash are ass. You also may have noticed these 2 bars up in the top. The one on the left is your Dark Gauge, and the one on the right is your Hero Gauge. Basically, killing enemies of a certain alliance will fill up the opposing gauge. So if you kill enemies allied to the Hero mission, it will fill up your Dark Gauge, and vice versa. Once a respective gauge is full, you'll be invincible and have infinite ammo until it runs out. But you'll also get a special ability if you press the button shown next to it. For the Dark Gauge, you get Chaos Blast, creating a massive explosion that wipes out anything in its radius, which can be helpful for the missions where you're required to kill every enemy. And for the Hero Gauge, you get Chaos Control, which zooms you forward in the level, often bypassing the requirements for the mission you're currently on. So, yeah, unless you're doing a mission which just requires you to get to the end of the level, this ability hinders more than it helps. Like I mentioned before, there are 2 endings on each path, with the deciding factor being which mission you complete on the 6th level, Hero or Dark. So, once you complete one ending for a path, how do you go and get the other one? Well, you'd think you'd just go to the level select the final level of the path you just did, and do the other mission. Oh no, but that's the logical answer, and this game doesn't care about logic. Instead, you have to restart the game from the beginning, play through the entire path you just did a second time, and then choose the other mission on the final level. So, all in all, this means you have to play the first level, Westopolis, 10 fucking times. So, with the gameplay out of the way, let's talk about the voice actors. This game actually has an entire new voice cast. Kind of. You see, in 2003, there was an anime called Sonic X, and when it got dubbed in English, it was done by 4Kids, a company that went bankrupt 14 years ago, and instead of using the voice cast from the games like the original Japanese version did, they instead used their own in-house voice actors. Sega, of course, wanted the voice cast to remain consistent across all pieces of media, something they don't seem too concerned about now, considering in 2022 alone, we had 3 different people voicing Sonic across different projects. So they ended up making a deal with 4Kids to have the voice actors from Sonic X replace the game's cast. Of course, Eggman would have had to have been recast anyway, since his actor Dean Bristow sadly passed away shortly after the release of Sonic Heroes, but contrary to what many people thought, his passing had nothing to do with the voice recast. It was already in the works before he passed. So, yeah, every character here who was also in Sonic X shares their voice actor from that show. Sonic and Shadow are both voiced by Jason Griffith.
It looks like the Gun have taken possession of the Chaos Emerald. Those aliens may think they're tough by using those lasers, but we'll have the last laugh. I found it. One of the Chaos Emeralds held by Gun. Damn, not here.
His Sonic and Shadow voices are probably the most iconic for people in my generation, since he's the one we grew up with. I will say, though, his Shadow voice is a little too whispery for me personally, but it's still pretty good. Tails is voiced by Amy Pallant.
Shadow, can you hear me? Black Doom must be in the center of the comet.
He sounds like a girl. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He literally sounds like a girl. Knuckles is voiced by Dan Green, who Yu-Gi-Oh fans may recognize as the voice of Yugi from the English dub of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime.
Hey, that's my emerald! Wait, we still haven't taken care of those aliens who stole it!
Rouge is voiced by Kathleen Delaney.
Shadow, it's dangerous past here. Be careful. Guess that's why they call you the ultimate life form.
She sounds like an old woman. Omega, who only appears at the end of the neutral route for some reason, is voiced by Jeff Kramer.
Reassess target priorities. We are here to face Eggman.
Honestly, if I didn't know this was a different voice actor, I would have assumed it was just John St. John again. He does a pretty good job. Amy is voiced by Lisa Ortiz.
Good job, Shadow. That's what you get for getting in our way.
She sounds like a girl. Not much more to say there. Though I will say this is my favorite Amy voice of them all. I just hate her characterization during this era. Cream and Maria are both voiced by Rebecca Honig.
Oh, Shadow, thank you. But Cheese wandered off into that castle, Shadow. You have to find him, please. Shadow, wait. There are still wounded people who need our help.
They're fine. Not much to say there. Cheese still has the same voice actress, so moving on. Espio is voiced by David Wills.
Shadow, thanks for your help earlier. Actually, I need to extract some data out of Eggman's database. Feel like lending me a hand?
He does a pretty good job. I mean, it's kind of hard to mess up an Espio voice. Charmy is voiced by Amy Birnbaum, who also voiced Max in Pokemon.
All right, good job. Shadow, you're so cool.
Vector is voiced by Carter Cathcart. I hope that's how you pronounce that.
Whoa! Where'd that green laser come from? Man, these guys just won't quit!
Not sure why they went for a higher pitched voice for him. Was Carter not able to do a lower voice? Black Doom is voiced by Sean Shamel, who is also the voice actor for fucking Goku.
Destroy those insolent fools. Make the humans suffer.
And lastly, Eggman and Professor Gerald are both voiced by Mike Pollock, and my personal negative feelings towards the man himself aside, there's no denying he does a great job as these characters.
That's my Chaos Emerald! Don't you touch it! Now, let me show you the power of my latest, greatest creation!
Shadow, it is I. I hear that my research experiments have escaped and are running loose.
But seriously, Sega, I think it's time to recast Eggman. Mike Pollock has shown himself to not be a good guy. Lastly, let's talk about the music. This game's soundtrack is actually pretty decent. There are some pretty good songs in here, like Westopolis, Prison Island, and Sky Troops. Also, the vocal themes here are actually really good. My personal favorites being the main theme, I Am All of Me, as well as the Dark Path credits, Almost Dead, the Hero Path credits, All Hail Shadow, and the last story credits, Never Turn Back. Overall, what are my final opinions on this game? Holy shit, it sucks! I am not kidding when I say I had a terrible time playing this. My friend Loxy can even attest to that because I was texting her while playing it. There was not a single moment where I could say I actually enjoyed playing this game, with the exception of the final boss. That one was actually pretty decent. Most of the time, I was either bored out of my mind on the verge of falling asleep, or extremely frustrated and on the verge of breaking my controller. Overall, with the terrible story and abysmal gameplay, this is a game I cannot in any good conscience recommend to anyone unless you want to torture yourself. The best thing about this game is the music and some of the voice acting. So, because of that, I give this game a 1 out of 10. This is a game I will likely never revisit again. Whew. At least that's over, and I think I got the worst out of the way. So let's take a look at what's next.